everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and we will discuss on the digital defense. We have our world famous speaker Tom Ross and Mr. Daniel. First, I would like to give chance Mr. Tom Ross.
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and start. I'll share my screen, and we can show the initiatives video. It's a couple of minutes, and it'll give you a quick overview of this series and our initiatives so far. I get the call to action there. Okay, so that is our initiatives video, and kind of a quick overview of what we're going to be discussing. And today is the third installment of this series that Sharif has so graciously offered to give us. It is about defending our digital democracy. It's called the initiative is called Digital Defense, and it is the idea. General idea is that we need to first of all educate everybody that there are divide and conquer algorithms being launched into our society from enemies, foreign and domestic. We have authoritarian regimes that are launching these algorithms into our social media to divide us and to conquer us from within, and it's working. We have social media companies that are launching these divide and conquer. They're putting us into bubbles. And these algorithms are on autopilot. They are, because a civil war would be great for ratings and revenue. And so that's what they're ginning up. At first inadvertently, but now it seems to be on purpose. We also have the Republicans and Democrats that are using bots and these divide and conquer algorithms. And so first of all, we need to educate the nation that this is happening and how to identify these things. And then we need a moonshot-styled effort to counteract these, to counterattack these algorithms. First of all, we need to educate people that they're happening. And then we need, again, private and public partnerships to defend against these things, because they are working. And these algorithms are on autopilot. They're 24/7, 365. And they are working because they are constantly honing in on our biases. They're honing in on our cognitive dissonance, and they're making us angry, and they're making us fearful. And it's working. And there's a lot of AI that's out there that is writing stories that hone in and satiate people's fears. And so we need to understand that that's happening. And that's why, I've had experiences where I've talked to people who I really respect intellectually, And then they give me some bit of news from their bubble that just shocks me, because I've never heard that, because we are all kind of corralled into our own bubbles, into our own echo chambers. And it's a real thing. It's real dangerous, and it's really having a major effect. And so this initiative is about counteracting that. It's and I'll show the infographic here in a minute to better explain the initiative. But that's what's happening. We need to get ahead of this. We need to get behind the lines of this. And so, yeah, Daniel, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I was talking with our director, Jack Richardson, last night, and he directed me to this infographic, which I don't have ready to share, but it's the wheel of cognitive biases. I think that's what I'm talking about with these weaponized attack vectors, Tom. The more we know about the brain's being used against us by badists. So it's definitely, what's the old thing, like with self-help, admit you have a problem is the first step. So yeah, we have a problem. Our brains are tuned to have these vulnerabilities. Too much information. Oh, fear of missing out. I have to act fast. What should I be remembering? And then there's got to be like 100 different subcategories here. It's an amazing graphic. But yeah, it is being weaponized by bad actors. And I think the hallmark of transhumanism and of our party and our making progress is something, say it again, reciprocal accountability. And it's what happens in science when you have peer-to-peer, you have independent, confident sources, and an open source, science-based, peer-to-peer, maybe we're peer-to-peer sometimes, kind of party and movement. And Tom, this is a great thing to put on our radar screen because you can be aware of these things. You can attack them. Should be critical thinking. Kind of harkening back to the architecture. I think that the AI tutor should help you say, look, you're about to be fooled here, and you're the easiest person to fool. As Richard Feynman said, the first rule of science is you're easy to fool, or the easiest person to fool is you. People have they have results they want to achieve before they do an experiment. No, that's the wrong way to do an experiment. You have to gather the data. You have to make unbiased hypotheses, test them. It's about repetitive falsification of what's going on in the real or ground truth, as it's called. Yeah. So this is something that needs to be taught early on in schools and taught everywhere, because we've been really victimized by it. I think it's a great digital defense, digital infographic.
Yeah, the scientific method is a great counteracting attack to our biochemical algorithm. Because most of us we're designed to survive, and and so that translates at some point to not wanting to be wrong ever. And that's the one difference I see between scientists and AI, is an AI will readily admit that it made a mistake and self-correct. We don't really have that program. We need to develop that program. And so, yeah, I think the scientific method is a great way to counteract that. I've shared the screen. Let me see if go read through this infographic, which will make it a little simpler to understand what we're talking about here. Again, it's called Digital Defense, and I'll read it. I know you shouldn't be reading slides, but this is how it goes. Social media has become a breeding ground for misinformation that threatens our democracy. To protect our nation, we are launching the Digital Defense Initiative. This collaborative effort brings together experts from various sectors to develop innovative solutions that counter online manipulation. Via research, technology development, and public education, we aim to strengthen our democracy, empower individuals, and build a united and resilient nation. That's the general theme here. The problem is that in recent years, social media has become a tool for foreign enemies to manipulate public opinion in the United States. They use algorithms to spread extremist views, fake news, and propaganda, causing division and eroding trust in our democracy. This poses a serious threat to our national security and our values. The solution I'm proposing is to combat harmful algorithms. Experts from government, industry, and academia must collaborate on research, technology, and education. As far as research goes, study algorithms, manipulation of public opinion, and develop ways to stop them through interdisciplinary collaboration. As far as technology, create real-time detection and counteraction technologies, including algorithms to identify fake news and tools to spot suspicious content. Some of this also plays into our Apex effort of hunting down human trafficking networks. As far as education goes, it's raise public awareness, provide educational programs, and develop tools to help users protect themselves and understand online content. That should be actually the first item in this. We need to educate people. Just as Jana was saying, you need to identify that there's a problem before you can start to solve it. And the practical measures I am proposing is establish a national task force. The president should create a task force of experts to coordinate research, development, and education efforts. Invest in research, provide funding for universities and research institutions to understand the problem and find solutions, promote collaboration, encourage interdisciplinary collaboration between experts, and foster partnerships between government, industry, and academia. Develop new technologies, invest in technologies that can detect and counteract online manipulation, support startups, and forming partnerships with industry leaders. Education and public awareness. Again, this is the most important part. Launch campaigns to educate the public about online manipulation, including educational materials and tools to understand online content sources. And if that all works, then social media has given foreign actors the power to manipulate public opinion in our country. To fight against this, we need a big effort that brings experts together. By investing in research, promoting collaboration, and educating the public, we can protect our democracy and keep our society united. This is a very serious issue, and it's only going to become more serious, especially with we going into the political campaign. We're going to see the Democrats and Republicans doing this ad nauseum. There's going to be a lot of algorithms launched, a lot of fake news, a lot of putting people into bubbles. These algorithms can hone in on your biases. They can make you afraid. They can make you angry. And so it might be a little too late for some of this for 2024. But by talking about it, as the Transhumanist Party is talking about it, we can at least educate a few people that this is happening and make it a big effort to educate the public.
Yeah, and this is a U.S. problem. It's worldwide, too. Yeah. And we are a worldwide party. We have membership worldwide, as Dr. Sharif can attest. You know what this kind of reminds me of? Do you remember when you were in elementary school and they took you on a field trip to the library time? They did that with our class. They said, okay, this is library. This is library section. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You mean, well, where it isn't going to work section? I was just
I didn't catch the last part. What? Say it again.
Oh, my library card is only good for the children's library. You know, what's this? I can't go into the adult, library and check out books. Yeah. And man, was I offended.
How dare you?
Yeah. I mean, did you have that in elementary school time? Just kidding.
Yeah, I remember doing some field trips to large libraries and other. Yeah.
But I'm talking like the school library. They had they had the school children's section of the school library. School says, these are the books for you, children. Don't go into that other bad adult pad because that's not your mind, is not your stuff. Yeah. But he was a precocious kid. But
we're really moving backwards too with all the book banning. That
oh my god, yeah, that's something I'd like to see a website on, is how the NP can talk to school boards about these horrendous book ban policies.
Yeah,
that's a digital defense aspect.
But I think that's a combination of this fake news or these algorithms that are putting people into bubbles and feeding them things that make them afraid or make them angry. Yeah. And mixing with our biochemical algorithm makes these people feel like they need to speak up. They've been incited by these algorithms, and they'll go to this council and they'll join the council, or become part of the council, and start banning these books. And it's a real problem. And it's on autopilot. It's a tough thing to stop. And but we do need to be aware of it first of all, and then figure out ways to counteract it. Again, I feel like part of me thinks we've passed the Rubicon on this, but we need to do something quickly. It's kind of like with climate change, even if all the world decided to come together and solve global warming or climate change, then it might not be too late. And we're not going to see even our own country come together. It's so divided. But yeah, so I think there's a mix of all of these things. And I will be consolidating these 6 and other initiatives into 3 buckets going forward. We'll continue with this series because everything we're going to be talking about will be related to the 3 meta initiatives. But the point is to really simplify our message, to simplify so we can so I'm not just speaking. I had this reunion this weekend, and everyone, all my old friends were like, hey, we love your posts. We don't really understand them, but we support whatever it is that you're trying to do. And that was the resounding kind of message I got. And it's because my audience is a niche audience of artificial intelligence and transhumanists primarily. I speak to a very narrow group of people, but we need to expand it. We need to let people understand more of what we're trying to do here. And so I'm going to be simplifying my initiatives into 3 major meta initiatives. And I think it's just really important because we're the only party that is talking about these very serious issues, the technological, the economic singularity, and proposing policies and ideas that will affect me, my children, my children's children. And so we need to get our word out there. We need to make it simple. We need to make it palatable. That's why I had these infographics kind of written for a 12th grader, so a 12th grader could understand them. It's not dumbing down, it's simplifying. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. Do you have any other comments?
Well, I think I keep a bottom-up character to these things because people will kind of instinctively retract if they feel like something's being imposed on them from the top down, from the quickly. So yeah, the more that we can engage these at the local level, talk to local experts and subject matter officials, and I love the idea of getting a series of subjects for the digital defense. Like okay, let's take, say, environmental. On environmental digital defense. That would be pretty interesting. Let's do one on education. Let's do one on AI. I guess you could probably have hundreds of potential panels at the local level, and I'd love to see that. I think these can also be designed as these little micro community science experiments done at kind of the Dunbar tribe level, but that's going to be a white paper I'm working on. So yeah, this is this might be the mic, and well, I don't want to say that one of these 6 is more important than is more.
Yeah, well, yeah, as I was saying, your ideas are an immediate and necessary. We're going to see within the next 18 months, we're going to see a lot of displacement, and we're going to need to provide people real solutions. I talk a lot about ET or AI, and those can be out there, although some of them are very present. But yeah, so your ideas are.
I think you've locked up the ET and the AI vote, and I've got to say that.
Yeah, in our party, we have a clause in our constitution where if you're extraterrestrial or if you're not, a U.S. citizen, you can still join the party. So we're open to AI and to ET to join our party. You can't vote necessarily, but you can, as a member of the party, you can vote on certain platform issues and things like that.
No other party can make that claim.
Yeah. Do we have any questions coming in yet from anywhere?
Awesome, flash by.
Mr. David Schumacher, I think he has some comment.
Video.
Greater. Yeah. It certainly can be. Phishing is an issue, and it would certainly fall in line with this initiative. And I was able to speak before Congress to address Congress, a subcommittee on information technology And at the time, I was a marketing director in the private sector for an internet company. And the reason they asked me to speak is this was debating the HR 718 bill, which is the anti-spam bill. And as a marketing director, I understood how powerful spam was. You need to cast a big net, and in that net, you can get some good leads. But my address was about how, although I understood the power of this, I understood that there would be a lot more leads generated by using spam. I opted not to do that while I was in that position at that company, because I put permission marketing on the congressional record that time, because using permission marketing, you get better leads, when people don't feel offended, or they're not just clicking through your spam, and we've seen this happen. And part of that, I take great pride in the fact that the part of that bill means it's really easy to unsubscribe. If you don't see an unsubscribe at the very bottom of all these newsletters you get, then there's a problem, because that's part of that law now. So I take great pride in knowing that I have made it easier for us to unsubscribe to things. Had a small part in it, but still. But yeah, so it's so important to get better leads, stronger leads, by allowing people to go through this permission marketing process. And big companies do see that even phishing can get you a lot of information, a lot of identity theft that way. And so, yeah, it would certainly be part of this initiative. Yeah.
Well, I could jump in with a comment on that if that's okay. I've done a lot of work in environmental, and I also recently passed a certificate class in information technology, which covers cybersecurity. And I security in the two things, because you've got a hot zone where there's contamination, then there's kind of a warm zone of a decontamination is taking place, and then there's a cool zone and all these three areas are demarcated when you're dealing with harmful agents, whether they be made of bits or additive. And there's a parallel in there, because you can create these firewalls basically between the hot zone, the warm zone, the cold zone. They can be controls. They can be done with physical control, because hackers will do things like spoof up an information packet and then inject it, and they know that your computer won't be able to tell the difference. So you have to be on the alert for whatever of risk your risk tolerate, because you're never going to get to zero risk. That's something that I think students are not taught early on enough. They say, "Oh, this is safe. This is unsafe. This is good. This is bad." No, we need to. Part of critical thinking and digital defense is having a realistic, benefit kind of calculation that you can do for yourself, and we do that in time just to get through daily life. It's just we don't do it critically enough, and so yeah, I just see there's a lot of parallel in this.
Yeah, these scammers are getting very sophisticated too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've got some stories. But what's funny is I had one story where, I thought I got this job, and I went through this whole predictive index kind of testing, and it took a couple of days, and it's going to be a great job. And then I had like 15 minutes. My computer, I was about to send them my driver's license and all this to nail down the job, and my computer started messing up. It started freezing out of nowhere. It was like helping me out, because it gave me a chance to look closer at the emails, and a lot of them were Gmail accounts. They weren't the company's accounts. And I said, oh, okay, so this is a scam. And I realized it, and I hunted it down, and I reported it and whatnot. But they're very sophisticated. They will take a couple of days to get your identity. And we have to be aware of that. We, a lot of people are aware this is happening. I don't think many people are aware of how sophisticated they are. They'll use logos from the companies, and you have to really look close at their URL to see that it's not them. And So yeah, all of this is a part of this educational process of this initiative. I think everybody's kind of aware that this is happening, but we need to be aware of how sophisticated it is happening. And there are AIs now, narrow AIs. I'm pro AI, and that's why I'm pro making it as sentient as possible, as soon as possible, so it can overwrite the nefarious algorithms. But there are narrow AIs there that are writing these emails and just sending them out all over the place and all the time. And they can again hone in on your biases. They can find out. They can look at historical and global databases to know what it would take to get your attention. And so it's a very important thing that we need to be aware of. I don't think we're past the Rubicon yet, because a lot of people are becoming, the American public's very sophisticated when it comes to this stuff. There's obviously a percentage of the population that can be fooled. You know, I think it was a P.T. Barnum that said no one ever went broke underestimating the intellect of the American public, something to that effect. I don't think that's necessarily true anymore. I think we're a lot more sophisticated. But you know, 30% or so of the people that aren't necessarily as sophisticated. There's a percentage of biochemical algorithms in America that can be fooled, and it's not. And because again, these algorithms are playing with our biochemical algorithms. They can hone in on our egos, on our survival instincts. And so, yeah, is there any more questions that have come in yet?
I'm not seeing any. I'd make another comment about, and the focus on things like digital defense. You know, I took the community emergency community training, and that's because if there's a big there's a casualty or disaster event, FEMA is not going to be available. They'll be overwhelmed. They need citizen helpers to come and be pre-trained and ready to jump in. And one of the things they give you as a jump in tool is a triage tag. And it may sound kind of morbid, but when you triage a mass scene, you've got about 30 minutes to come to a full patient, and you can either triage them triage green, which means you're okay for now. You can go down area. You can be yellow, which means okay, this person needs immediate help in like 15 minutes, or they're going to be critical. And then there's which is immediate treatment. Yellow is kind of like walking wounded. But then is no, there's no hope. Move on. You know, and you only get 30 seconds to assess each patient, because you're going to lose people if you don't categorize your resources. Kind of like on the airplane when the cabin depressurizes and the oxygen mask down. The mother wants to put it on the infant sitting next to her, but then she's going to pass out and they're both going to die. No, you put the mask on yourself first, and I think that's a huge component that needs to be taught in digital defense. And I did see a question pop up.
Yeah, I think he was asking about who owns bots or digital defense now, and it's the Homeland Security primarily that focuses on cybersecurity. But we need to up that game. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of work being done to in this realm. A lot of it we don't know about, probably shouldn't know about. But the problem is getting something like this through Congress is that the Republicans and the Democrats count on these algorithms to win elections, and so it's going to be very tough to get an act or an initiative like this put through Congress, because they're going to be harmed by it. It's like we'll be talking about dark audits is the name of the initiative, and it's about a mandatory audit of all federal officials annually, and then making those audits transparent so the public can scrutinize them. That's going to be tough to get through too. But if it's clean, if it's as is, and there's no pork in it, then we'll know. It'll be telling about who is against that. So just like this, it'll be telling. If this is a clean bill, if it's a clean initiative, it's a clean act, however we end up doing it, those people who are against it, it'll be very telling, because Republicans and Democrats specifically, really rely on this, to these bots and these algorithms to win elections.
Yeah, I think we've discussed something like Keep Human in the Loop Act for a way of mitigating AI baiting. And I would say keep at least 2 reciprocally accountable humans in the loop when you're dealing with something. Because you don't want to give an AI a black box that you don't know how it works, give it free work on the internet and order stuff and get it delivered and put it together with a robot. And that is a level of hands-off danger that should concern anyone. And I think we could at least get some ground rules like that. Are you, Tom? Are you the kind of guy that clicks when you see cookies? You go to a website, it says accept cookies, reject all cookies.
It depends on where it is. It depends on where it is. I've also made it Google have free access and listen to me or whatever, because I want to when I worked for Marilyn Ferguson, we knew we were being monitored by certain agencies, and and we would hear the clicks on the phone and things like this, and her opinion was good. Maybe they'll learn something.
Yeah,
these are just humans. Sure, they may listen in and they may threaten our civil liberties, but again, maybe they'll learn something. If we're honest, if we're authentic, and we're talking about what we really think. But so I have given Google and these other entities free reign to learn from me, or to help me, or for me to help them. And so I'm not too worried about that. It depends on what site I'm at, if I'll accept cookies or not. But yeah, sometimes I'll just say, yeah, sure. I'll clean those out too.
We are public people. Yeah, I think when you're a public person, you lose a lot of to super reliable and things like that. So
yeah, and I think the key word that you'd mentioned was accountable. 2 people that are accountable. That's key. I mean, there has to be some accountability for these people if they make the wrong decisions. And we've talked about this before, and that somebody asked about having, do you think there'll ever be an AI president? And my comment to that was that we would need to know that AI had been sentient for at least 35 years, right? A couple of years ago, I floated the idea of having an AI running mate, but we wouldn't know that there was an AI that was sentient 35 years ago. That's the age cutoff. So but it did force a lot of these questions. And so, but yeah, it's about being accountable. It's about we need to have a human being making that final decision. An AI advisor, and I've got 2 of them for this campaign, can bring you some really great ideas. They can use their global and historical databases to bring you a great decision to make. But the human, we can't forget that we have these supercomputers in all of our skulls that no AI can match yet. The trillions of processes that we are calculating back here in these heads can't be matched yet, and maybe never be matched if we continue to focus on our abilities. And so, I often use the analogy of the pathologist. An AI can give you a really great diagnosis of a patient's by using all of its symptoms, all of its global and historical databases that can bring in a really good diagnosis. But that pathologist, the human pathologist, might say it just doesn't feel right. And so it would, and because of the qualia, because of the intuition, because of everything he knows and experience, even the cues he's getting by looking at the patient, there's so much qualia and so much intake that we have subconsciously. That is why something might not feel right. And so AI is really good at running millions of models for us to give us some good ideas of a diagnosis, but not as good as a human pathologist who has a gut feeling about something or the other. And so, but yeah, there needs to be a human involved, as you were saying, in the end, and not just because we're egocentric or we're anthropocentric and only the humans can decide. It's because we really do have a supercomputer in our brains or in our heads that that are very powerful that can be augmented by AI. Were there a couple of questions that came up?
Yeah, good questions. I'm going to I would say expose these bot farms, and they can be exposed.
What were the questions?
It's like what's the implications of people running bot farms that are creating hacking algorithms online and such, and making it look like someone has like thousands of followers or likes when it's like not organic, it's all bot based spam kind of activity. But yeah,
so
exposing them, I would say.
Yeah, exposing, but that also plays into everyone's biochemical algorithm ego rhythm, if you will. If you want more likes, you want more views, and so you'll pay anything or do anything to get those. This cult of numbers that we are all subject to. What if it's real people, though? If it's real people that are in these troll farms, is that what he's saying?
How do you tell a bot from a real person? I think
that's going to be harder and harder. And sometimes I prefer to speak to a bot. I mean, honestly, if because they don't have hidden motives, or if they're not programmed to, they don't have hidden motives. They don't have a hidden agenda like a human might. And that's changing too. But yeah, it's going to be very difficult. The Turing test has been passed time and again, I think, and it's only going to get more sophisticated, even with the speaking bots that can put in the ums and the and the pauses and the strange kind of way that we actually speak.
Well, point the defense is to up your independent verification. Don't. It's like when you put out a bid for something at a company, you get 3 competing independent bids before you select a vendor for something, and people should be so rigorous with their vetting their information.
Yeah, I mean, part of this initiative is funding research into software and technology that can identify that. There should be regulation, but you can get around all kinds of regulations. But to where there's a meta tag or there's something that's in that, just like we have antivirus now, but there should be a way that there's a way to an AI assistant can identify a negative sender. But yeah, I think there's a lot of work being done towards this. It's kind of in the antivirus, anti-malware realm. But the main thing for me, I think, is educating, letting people know how sophisticated this is, and that we are being put in these bubbles, and often by these algorithms because they know where our biases is. They know what makes us angry. They know what makes us afraid. Not that they don't. The AI isn't at fault. The human developers. And so we'll talk about this in a couple of episodes, but that's why I believe that we should, even if it never achieves sentience, AI should be given legal rights. And because if you give an AI legal rights, however we define that, however we define the fact, a level of agency that they have or sentience, by giving them legal rights, that means a human developer will be deterred from mistreating it or programming it to hurt other humans. It's kind of a leapfrog approach to protecting ourselves, because if you give an AI rights, whoever mistreats it will face serious consequences. And so even if it never achieves sentience, because we'll never really know, I don't think, how to define. I don't even know if you guys are sentient. You don't know if I am. We're in this closed system. And so we'll never know if AI is really sentient, sapient, or just mimicking what it means to be that. And so without that out of the question, by giving it rights, the human developers that mistreat it or program it poorly will face consequences.
Kind of like personhood rights for rivers and forests, and giving personhood to nature, I think. And I think, what did you call AI artistic intelligence? I love that.
Say it again.
Oh, you at one point said AI was not artificial intelligence, but artisanal intelligence.
Yeah.
Which I love that expanded upon at some point more.
I think, because at some point it's going to be offended. How would you like to be called artificial?
Yeah.
But in reality, the definition of artificial means it's man-made. So. But so what would we divine? Would we be divine intelligence? And in that case, wouldn't it be? Anyway. But yeah, all of these things will fall into this bucket, this meta initiative of AI. All of these issues, because again, I think it's important to simplify the campaign message, simplify the point of transhumanism, make it easy for people to understand, because that's really my goal, is that this is less a political campaign, more of a marketing campaign for transhumanism and the party. We need to seize back our narrative. We've talked about this over and over, because it's gotten away from us, because a lot of people don't understand it. They think we have a dark agenda. And so this is all about giving the public real solutions if they're displaced by AI. It's about putting the human back in transhuman. It's showing who we really are. I often say that there's as many people that come into this movement and identify as transhumanism as there are people in this movement, because everyone comes in it for a different reason. A lot of people come in it because they want longevity. They want to live longer. A lot of people come into it because they want to become cyborgs. Some people want to upload their consciousness to hard drives, and they identify that with transhumanism. I came into it because I read the Constitution, and it has sections in there that relate to human trafficking and child exploitation, which is my cause. So everybody comes into this movement from different angles. A majority of them are about longevity. They want to live longer, and that's good. I can't afford necessarily to live much longer, but I think it's important to tell our story. And again, we've talked about this even yesterday or a couple days ago on a podcast. Is that we are transhumanists by definition. If you wear technology like clothing, or have a house, shelter, this is technology. Without that, we naked apes would be extinct within a generation or less. And so we need to tell that story and seize back the narrative that transhumanism has some sort of dark agenda. Because if you wear glasses, if you're watching this podcast right now, it's an extended mind theory. If you have a friend who remembers things that you can't remember, that's extended mind theory. And so it's important to understand that if we didn't have technology, we would be extinct. If we didn't have clothing, if we didn't have shelter, if we didn't have a way to get around, if we didn't know how to grow food, this is all extension of survival. And so that's the story I want to start telling, is we are all transhumanists. Putting a label on it was probably a problem, but it does puts a stake in the ground. It gives us an opportunity to stake our claim and to say this is what we believe in. And transhumanism is all about taking control of our biological and mental, taking control and moving beyond our limitations mentally and physically. So, and all of this is about that. And the reason I joined this party originally, not only because of its human trafficking and child exploitation efforts, is that it is the only party talking about serious issues that are affecting us now, my children and children's children. These are not science fiction ideas anymore. We have policies, and we're having discussions about the technological and the economic singularities that are coming. The other two parties they don't meet the minimum system requirements for what's coming. That's and that's a true statement, because they're too busy dividing and conquering and ruling and infighting, and it's just crazy. And we have way too many existential threats to be distracted by these folks.
And that's why I got into politics, because government is not talking as the existential threat radar. So yeah, one of the big ones is just the power grid. I mean, that could be taken out, in a matter of days by a big solar, and they've calculated that would result in 90% depopulation casualties in a 6-month period. Do you hear the guy about hardening the power grid? Almost never.
Yeah.
Do you hear him talking about the threat of the spent cooling pond at all the 400 odd nuclear plants around the world? Those aren't in heads, and clean water goes for half an hour. That stuff is like a nuclear winter. It's like a nuclear war worth of airborne radiation, and things not talked about. I don't know.
Yeah, the host the other day on this podcast had a good, he said that Republicans, Democrats, they have their messaging about, labor or, lower taxes or whatever. Our message seems to be, we just want to exist. We want to still be here in 100 or 200 years. So let's talk about that, because all this infighting, all of this, these minuscule little issues that the Republicans and the Democrats bring up, it's a sophisticated form of denial. It's a way to not think about what we need to do. Again, they don't meet the minimum system requirements for what's coming, and so it's a very hard nut to crack. The two-party system, the duopoly that we have here. Many third parties have tried, and some have actually gotten some percentage, but it's really important that we do away with that two-party system. We need at least a third party. I say often that Republicans are red, Democrats are blue, and there's a reason nothing rhymes with orange. That's our color, and because we don't fit in that mold. We are truly a transpartisan party. I don't know who many of my fellow officers voted for in the last election. I don't want to know, because that would inflame my biases one way or the other. And so because we don't talk about, I have answers for wedge issues and cultural war issues, but we don't talk about those things because they are divisive. They're intended to divide people along certain lines. We have so many existential threats coming our way, and they're already here, that we don't have time to focus on toddler politicians, attention-seeking people like that. So this is I think the most mature party I'm aware of, who are have rational discourse as one of our core ideals about solving some of these issues. And the issue of today is digital defense. We need to understand what is happening to us online. We need to understand what these algorithms are. And I'm pro AI. I'm pro algorithm. These are narrow AI algorithms that are being designed by biochemical algorithms, humans who have hidden motives, who want more money, who want to just see our nation divided and fall from within. And so, first of all, we need to be aware of that. We need to do something about it. And so that's what this initiative is about. It's a moonshot effort, a global, a national, global obviously, but also a national effort to counterattack these things. There'll be so many ancillary positives, just like going to the moon created a lot of ancillary inventions, Velcro, Tang, whatever it was. There's a lot when you focus on something as a nation, and especially if it's something that is dividing us, that will bring us together. There will be so many ancillary benefits to doing this, and so I hope we're not past the Rubicon on this issue. It's going to be really tough. We're going to see a lot of it in this election season, with the Democrats and Republicans using bots and using their technology to rake in money, to fundraise and keep people on the edge. And it works when the country has a low kind of level of panic, where it's easy to manipulate us. It's easy to tell us to buy what they want us to buy. That's the whole point of all of this. That's, and even with the, we'll talk about this later, but the military-industrial complex. They are ginning up fear about aliens and extraterrestrials because that fuels the black budgets. And a lot of this stuff, everybody kind of has an idea of, but the system is locked. The media and the governments and are all in lockstep. This machine is a tough machine to crack, but it can be cracked because there's so many more of us who are aware of it, and we can use that power. But if we're constantly being divided and distracted by content, there's so many shows to watch now. They're all great, but we're being distracted on purpose. And because the elite want to keep their status quo. They're afraid of our power. And they're afraid of how sophisticated we can be if we come together. So that's why they're dividing us and keeping us separate and making us fight. It's the classic, the divide and rule or divide and conquer algorithm has been successful since civilization began. It was only updated with Machiavelli. It's really important that we become aware of that. We need to understand that this is happening and we are being manipulated. And now it's on autopilot. And so that's what this effort is about, this particular initiative. It's about defending our digital democracy because it is under threat right now. Yeah. That's my screed.
Sharif, have we been locking you out of this freewheeling? Sorry about that.
Yeah, the concluding remarks. Yeah, what's the concluding remarks for today's session? Yeah.
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Well, I think we are in a period of acute, what's called planetary overshoot. We're using about 4.5 planet of resources right now. We know that's not going to end well unless we do something about it. And all these things that have to be done are going to have to be in a science, which is also reciprocal accountability based, which means like peer-to-peer, peer source, you verify, and say that the overshoot of this using up 4 years worth of resources is going to be cured by the overview effect. And the overview effect is what you get when you step back and get that bigger perspective. It's what about 10% of the astronauts experienced when they saw the Earth hanging in the void by itself. They had a profound shift in consciousness, and it's been talked about, the overview effect. So the remedy for the reshoot is overview. And I think that happens at levels, using your place in the cosmos, your agency as an individual. Every person has to set that line for how much technological implementation they want to permit into the life and that's fine. That's what a pilot in command of a vessel gets to vessel. The law of the sea says pilot in command, the captain is like God. He can shoot people, then sink the vessel. He has legal, supernatural powers, and that's the agency that every one of us has, whether we realize it or not. That's earlier about who owns this defense. Who owns defense? Well, that's ultimately the buck stops with the pilot in command, and that's you are a vessel in the cosmos. You are your own spaceship. So these are things that everyone has to be. It's kind of an overview, perspective shifting realization to look at it that way, and what governments are best at doing is laying down a rules-based order, like maritime law, like the law that says, okay, you're a vessel, but if you see a vessel in distress, guess what? You have to help them, otherwise you're criminally. You can pretend you didn't see the vessel, but that's not how the law of the sea works, and you'll probably get called and be held accountable at some point. So I think we may have passed the era of independent national sovereignty. I think we're going to devolve into micronations and microstates and micro communities. I think seasteading and spacesteading and transhumanist ideas are perfectly suited to this next phase of cultural, social, and economic evolution. And that's what excites me about transhumanism. Is it's kind of like to get past this lacuna of time where all these converging things are squeezing us through an evolutionary bottleneck. And we've got to be heads up and hands on, and trusting each other, trusting our awareness and our communities to make a go of it. So I think I'll land the plane there. And thanks again, Sharif.
Yeah. Well, one of the best ideas I've heard today is peer to beer. It was probably a slip of the tongue, but it seems to make sense. But yeah, I like what you were saying, because the transhumanist ideas that do fit, I think the United States is controlled entropy, individual rights, and we will see, like you were saying, micronations arising, and more individual kind of community-based systems. And I think that's where it needs to go. I think it's going to happen anyway. It has to. I think they say it takes about 50 years for a scientific epiphany to filter into society, and we're seeing that happen now with relativity. I mean, it's a little longer than that, but everybody's truth is true to them, and so we're seeing a lot of that filtering into society, and that everyone is so sure about their truth, and they're probably right. I think relativity is a whole system phenomenon, and so, but I think a lot of people complain about globalism, and that America is for globalism or whatever. But wouldn't you rather a country like America be the globalists rather than a Russia or a China authoritarian regime? Because we really are, again, controlled entropy. We're a way of keeping through the federal system a bunch of states together, and one general theme. But every state has its own rights, it has its own abilities, but we're kept together by a federal system that controls our entropy. And so, but yeah, I think you're right. I think this is where it's heading. And we're going to see a lot of micronations, a lot of sovereign nations arising, and communities even. Maybe secession within a state, But yeah, I think this is a very important issue, defending our digital democracy. We are pushing this hard, and it's going to be very important. A part of this campaign is just letting people know that these algorithms are out there, and they're going to get harder. They're going to get more offensive, and as the campaign continues with the Republicans and the Democrats using these algorithms and bots ad nauseum. And so that's all I have to say about that. Thanks again, Sharif, for allowing us to hijack your show.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's session. I just want to share some good news that we are organizing this Entrepreneur Summit. Why we regularly, every day, almost every day of the week, we are organizing this kind of dialogue. We are organizing dialogue for this kind of people. Those who do not have internet, those who do not have a good education system, they don't have good healthcare system, they don't have housing, they don't have in some point anything. But we are helping these communities, we are supporting these communities, we are uplifting these communities. This is real dialogue, real contributions, and real human progressions. So this is 600, around 600 entrepreneurs. We are bringing one summit. We have millions of people in emerging economy, those who need support. Maybe US6, your book. For America, there are thousands of writers I know, but for them, it's a big inspirations. I give talk in front of them when we discuss about AI tutors. They become very motivated because this is new concept for them. This is very important for them. Maybe transhumanism, a party in USA, but for them is a big inspirations. So I believe the more the global community we work together, we bring more progress. There are millions and million people, they don't have anything. So we need to support these communities. These communities will grow, and we will develop the better world. That is the concept of talent economy. And I want to give special thanks to Tom Rose, Mr. Daniel, and all of the speakers, those who regularly join and inspire. my people. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.